now. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the podcast, Britt, Kanawha, West Hancock Athletics Podcast. This is episode 36, and I'm excited to have the two-time state football champion on with me, Irvin Gomez. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Good. I was just telling Irvin before we hit record, I'm really jealous of that big old thing on his hand, his right hand there. Never got one of those when I played, so I'm excited to chat it up about some state championship football. Before we get to Irvin, though, and his 2 state titles, I need to recognize my 18 sponsors for tonight. Thanks to all those sponsors that you see on my background. So like always, a few extra minutes will be plugging my sponsors to help them and their businesses. That's all right, though, because we have a lot of money pumping into the Sanger Legacy Fund because of them. My sponsors for tonight are the Brit Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Jay Hiscock's Estate Farm Insurance, First State Bank, Mojo Productions, Daniel's Auto Collision, Katie's Salon and Tanning, Deemer Realty, Nick Schmidt, Kelly Real Estate, Sidetrack Lanes, Wilson's Diner and Brit Food Center, Levi Dawn Trucking, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, the Brit Vet Clinic, The World with Nate Podcasts, and Doug and Kathy Zuehl of K3 Farms. So thanks again to all those sponsors. We'll get to them throughout the podcast. Spring sports have started up with practice, but nothing to report here besides the fact that they're practicing. Meets don't start for another week or two. And like always, make sure you're giving to the Sanger Legacy Fund. You can go to sangerstrong.com to donate. You can set up recurring payments if you'd like, but we're excited for giving out scholarships to seniors every year, starting up the new Hall of Fame at the school, and helping any of the activities or athletics coaches with anything that they might need through the Legacy Fund. Way back when, doing this to give podcasts more views and sponsors more advertising, 10 episodes ago on episode 26, I'd met with the 2021 football seniors, so that's great timing for this podcast. 20 episodes ago on episode 16 was Chuck Buseman, a former coach. And then 30 episodes ago on episode 6 was Mark and Jim Timmerman. I just ran into Mark here in Indianola on Monday at the playground. All right, before we get to Irvin, I want to get to a couple sponsors because we have 18 of them. Head up to Wilson's Diner at 441 Main Avenue North in Brit for breakfast, lunch, and supper. They're closed on Tuesdays, but open every other day of the week. Check out their Facebook page for which days and at what times they're open. Call Wilson's Diner at 843-0550. Wilson's Diner has great food at great prices, and they look forward to serving you. That's Wilson's Diner in Brit. And then I just added a new sponsor for Irvin's episode, Doug and Kathy Zuehl of K3 Farms. They just wanted to congratulate the team again on winning another state championship and give to the Sanger Legacy Fund. So thanks to Doug and Kathy Zuehl of K3 Farms. All right, Irvin, here we go. I'm excited for this one. Like I said, I'm jealous of that ring on your finger. Another one on its way. I love West Hancock football, man. I'm sure you've noticed that over time, that it's one of my hobbies and passions is following my high school team. So wanted to do a deep dive. Irvin contacted me a while back and he goes, man, it'd be fun to do a kind of a deep dive podcast more than we did with just the seniors that one night. Cause it's like we were saying, it's really hard to have 13 people have a conversation on a Zoom. So we wanted to dig into this season. So first of all, how's your senior year going? How would wrestling end up for you? And then just tell everyone kind of what you're going to do after high school here in a couple months.
Well, senior year's going by pretty good, pretty fast. There's a lot going on with my senior year, getting invitations and everything set out. The wrestling season it didn't go as planned. Our team, we had an okay season. We didn't make it past the regional duels, which is upsetting, but we did our best. I got the districts. I got beat out, and it was an emotional year for me. I've had a lot of fun. It's been an honor to wrestle under Mark Sanger. With all the guys. We got a lot of talent coming back for next year and the following year. So we got a lot to look forward to. After I'm done here in Brit, after I graduate, I will be going to Nyack, and I'll be wrestling under Steve Kelly.
Nice.
He gave me an offer to wrestle, and I'll be taking it. I will be majoring in business, so 2 years at Nyack, and then hopefully go to UNI and finish my educational career there.
Cool. Do you have kind of a plan on what type of business career path you want to go down, or right now you're just kind of exploring?
I'm between a few things. I'm doing opening up a restaurant and a gym.
Cool.
Yeah, I like
Awesome.
fitness, so gym would be a fun thing for me.
Nice. My parents were in the restaurant business for 30 years, so I've been around that block a few times. So
Oh yeah.
Titanium Lunchbox was actually my parents' pizza place
Oh really?
throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and they sold it, and those people sold it to the people who have it now. So
Awesome.
yeah. Talk about Steve Kelly a little bit before we get into football here. He's going to be on a podcast episode. Are you excited to wrestle for him?
Oh yeah, super excited, super pumped. I'm really looking forward to wrestling next year. So
yeah, he's a good guy, good coach. He was just named the National Coach of the Year for junior college.
I did see that
last week or whenever it was, and had I think he had one guy win a national title, if not two. I can't remember.
Two of them, yeah.
So yeah, so you're gonna be in a good spot, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what weight you're gonna wrestle at?
165.
65. Cool. Good deal.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get to another sponsor here quick because I just love saying it. I have 18 sponsors. It's just a lot of fun that we have so many people wanting to give. So I'm going to thank Sidetrack Lanes and Brit for sponsoring the podcast. Sidetrack Lanes opened in Brit in 1996 under new ownership. Doug Bauer, or Ron Bauer, Doug's his son. Go bowl at 411 Main Avenue North. Enjoy some food and a drink or two while you're bowling. Join the league and check out the events on their Facebook page. Call Sidetrack Lanes at 843-4567 or check out their Facebook page. That's Ron Bauer and Sidetrack Lanes. All right. I'm a nerd. I'm a stat guy. I'm going to dig into your football career a little bit here. Your 4 years that obviously ended with another state title in 2021. So in your 4 years, 2018 to 2021, you guys went 44-5. 44-5, which I was talking to Mark Sanger that I think that's the winningest group in school history, obviously with the championships, but record-wise as well. 2 of those 5 losses were in the playoffs, the 2018 semifinals against Hudson by 7, and then 2020 quarterfinals against this team, I'm sure you remember, Grundy Center, 20-14. Your 3 regular season losses to give you your 5 total losses, a 7-point loss to Garner in 2018, and also in 2018, a 14-point district loss to Garrigan. That was actually our last district loss. You guys only lost 1 district game in 4 years. And your only other loss was 2020, an 8-point loss to Garner, Hayfield, Ventura. You never lost the game on the road. And you guys were literally 42 points away from not losing a game in high school. That's just a handful of touchdowns. So talk about, before we get into 2021, that 2018, 19, and 20 seasons where you went to the semifinals, the state championship win, and then the quarterfinals. What do you remember about those years leading up to the state championship of 2021?
I remember it was just, we never really had any thoughts, just go out there, work our hardest, just, do things together as a team, build up that team chemistry that I talked about earlier, and just, work hard, work our way up there. Like I said, nobody ever expected us to be state champs, and luckily all that work we did from 2018 up to 2021 was paid off great, and I'm glad that we saw that all happen.
Yeah. So 2018, you were a freshman. Refresh my memory. Did every player dress for the playoffs and every game as freshmen, or did you guys have enough guys where you didn't get to?
No, that we had a full team. We were over, so not a lot of us got to dress freshman year.
Okay. How about sophomore year? Were you in the dome dressed as a sophomore that year?
Yeah, I was on the scout team that year.
Okay. So you got to be on the sidelines warming up with the team in 2019 when you guys won state.
Yep.
Was that a big motivator for you guys to get back?
Yep. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Even just being on the scout team, just getting to warm up with the varsity guys, just being out there with all the guys in the locker room and everything, just makes it just more motivating for us to be out there.
Yeah, and talk about Coach Bob Sanger a little bit. You got kind of cheated of not being able to play under him because of his health issues those last couple of years, your first couple of years in high school. What was that like winning a state title for Coach Sanger before he passed away?
It was awesome. It was it felt a little different than when we won it in 2021. Still a great feeling, but it was just when we held up the trophy to him was just awesome. You know, it's something I felt in my heart. I was like, this is something I want to live over and over and over. And it was really just one of the best feelings in the world that I've ever had.
Yep. And it's cool though, because I mean, you're an 18-year-old kid, and to really understand, like, that guy's been there for 52 years, and like, I mean, he coached 2 or 3 generations of Brit and West Hancock players. So for him to go out on that championship note there, his last season was just unbelievable. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. So
yeah.
And then how about 2020, your junior year, that loss to Grundy in the quarterfinals? How did you guys feel finishing up that season going into 2021?
I didn't get to play at all that game. I was hurt. I remember I hurt my back the 2 days before the game. And I remember just being on the sidelines of the team and looking at some of the senior guys, Ben Martinez, Tanner Thompson, and all of them. It was kind of that look in their eyes that they had, you know, it's kind of like shock and super upset. It was very heartbreaking to look at that and feel that moment over again. It wasn't fun to think that we were state champs the year before and then lose to the same team we just beat the previous year. It was heartbreaking, super heartbreaking for a lot of us. So
yeah. And you're one of the few people that ended your career with a win. I mean, I did too, but it wasn't in the playoffs. We didn't make the playoffs my senior year. We went 7-2, but most teams lose in the first round, second round, quarterfinals, semifinals. That's your last feeling of West Hancock football is a loss, and you felt like you should have done better. So you guys were pretty darn lucky to walk off, finish your career with a win in the Dome. So again, kind of jealous of that big thing on your finger right now. So yeah. So, all right, we're going to get into 2021 here, but I'm going to get to 2 more of my sponsors. Mojo Productions is another amazing sponsor that I have. Mojo Productions is based in Brit. They're your full service DJ business. They specialize in wedding DJing. They're fully insured and they give back to the community. And they're also the presenter of the Brit car, truck, bike, and tractor night cruises. Contact Jared Wingert at 515-408-1074. Send him a message on Facebook. And then the Brit Food Center is one of my new sponsors. They are locally owned, family operated, hometown grocery store in Brit. They offer fresh produce, fresh cut meat, fresh bakery, and homemade deli items. They're hardworking people, and they're working hard to meet the needs and requests of their community. The Brit Food Center is a proud supporter of West Hancock schools and activities. They're open 7 days a week from 8 to 8, except on Sunday, they're open 8 to 6. Check them out at BritFoodCenter.com. Follow them on Facebook. For deals and specials, call them at 843-4429. That's the Brit Food Center. All right, like I said, we're going to break down every one of these 13 games you guys had. And I just want to say, like I said, I follow the games. I don't go to where I live now. I don't go to the home games on Friday nights. I follow you guys on the live stream. I try to get to your games in person if I can, a time or 2 a year. So I remember each one of these games pretty well. Obviously looked at the stats and stuff. I'm gonna kind of give a little breakdown of the game, but then I want you to talk about like behind the scenes, in the huddle, in the locker room, what the coaches were saying, what you guys were thinking and feeling at the time. We're gonna kind of deep dive into this a little bit. So game 1 was a non-district game at Garner Hayfield Ventura. Rain delays started the game and the season. What do you remember about the rain delays? What did you guys do to pass the time and stay focused for the game itself?
I remember I was just about to go in when they called the first one. Sanger called my name and I was ready to go. I was super pumped. I was a little nervous because it was the first game of the season. I remember we ran into the locker room and we're all just waiting around, jumping around, trying to stay hyped, you know, just all talking to each other, you know, and just trying to stay within the game, trying to stay focused. I remember they brought us the Gatorade protein bars or whatever and water bottles. I remember just sitting in the locker room, talking to each other, trying to stay hyped. And it was getting frustrating because they just kept calling them. And I was like, this is going to take a while. I remember just getting in there. We were all starting to get really frustrated because we didn't want to go home. We wanted to really play the game. And I think that's what helped us stay in the game is, you know, wanting to play the game. It didn't seem like Garner wanted to play anymore, you know, after they just kind of just gave up on it. They didn't seem strong enough to finish the game.
Do you remember what time the game finished?
I'm gonna
I can't.
assume like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was probably between the 10 and 11 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
If you're a West Hancock history buff at all, in 1999, they had a game over in Eagle Grove, and it was for playoff implications. The game didn't start till almost 11 o'clock because of the weather, and it went till like I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. There was only about 20 people left in the stand, so I was starting to think, man, we might have one of those situations from back in the 90s where the game's not even going to start till almost the next day. I think it started on one day and ended on the next day. So
Yeah.
oh, all right. Garner, you guys led 8-7 after one quarter, led 22-7 at halftime, got 6 more in the fourth to make it 28-7. We had 271 rushing yards, which isn't a huge number in West Hancock standards. Garner had almost as many total yards, but they chucked it around a lot, had to pass it to play catch up. Matthew Francis had 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. Logan Lear threw a touchdown pass to Ryland Barnes. You personally, Irvin, had 5 tackles on the game. How important is it for you guys to beat Garner in that first game of the season? Because on the years when you beat Garner, you won the state title, and the years that you lost to him, we lost in the playoffs. Not that that was a huge factor. It was just kind of something I noticed. What's the Brit, West Hancock, Garner, Hayfield, Ventura rivalry like in 2021?
Well, for one, it's a huge game because it sets the mood for the season a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that first game and it's always that first competition week. It always sets the mood for the rest of the season. And not that there's not time for improvement. It's just if you do things right and if you battle through that first game and get through it, it just really sets a good tone for the season. But the rivalry between us and Garner has just been a brutal one. I remember freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, there's been a lot of talking between the teams on and off the field, on social media. It gets intense because they're supposed to be a rival, but it's just it's something you gotta work through. Garner, I'm not gonna lie, Garner's been a tough team these last few years. We've won and lost to them. I've lost to them twice, beat them twice, but I gotta say it's been a lot of fun competing against Garner, and it's kind of awkward now because I have classed some of the guys that were on the team, so yep. It's they always say that they could have beat us then, but I don't think so. They didn't beat us the first time, so there's no way to prove it now.
Do you ever wear your ring to class just to show off a little bit to them?
Yeah. First time we got them, we wore them, and they were all super jealous. They were all looking at them, and oh man, I wish we could have got it.
And how's it with so you have Coach Camrad on the coaching staff at West Hancock. His brother's the head coach at Garner now. Yep. Was there any chats with him or about playing each other with kind of having that connection?
I asked him after the game, I'm like, how are you gonna face your brother? He goes, oh, I got bragging rights now, family reunions and stuff. He's got the right to brag.
Yep. And Brandon, the head coach, he's in my grade. I played against him. He's a super nice guy. It's just, there's for a couple hours a year, you got to put that off to the side and try to win a ball game. So, Garner got you guys to 1-0. And then you jumped right into district season. Before we get to district game number 1, I'm going to get to Renee Deemer and Deemer Realty, hometown hospitality and service with a smile. That's what Deemer Realty is all about. Helping buyers and sellers make a smooth transition when moving within or to the area is their top priority. Serving North Central Iowa since 1999, Deemer Realty has steadily grown over the years, establishing an outstanding record of sales in the North Iowa area that speaks to their dedication to every customer. That's Deemer Realty. Go to deemerrealty.net or check them out on Facebook. All right, game number 2, district play. Newman Catholic, again on the road. You guys started the year back-to-back road games. It can be tough, obviously, not having a home game within the first couple weeks of the season. But it also, I think, can avoid distractions to a degree. You're kind of away from your friends and away from your house and maybe technology or whatever else. You kind of focus just on football. This game was hyped up as one of the biggest regular season games of the season, even though it was in week 2 and week 1 of district play. And for me, it's kind of fun because the head coach, Rich McCardle, he's actually married to a relative of mine. So as much as I don't care for Newman, I kind of have to cheer for Newman when they're not playing West Hancock because Rich is a super awesome guy. And I went to his daughter's graduation last spring before the 2021 season. And I said, "What do you think about football season?" He goes, "Well, I'm guessing you're going to like what I have to say," because he spoke very highly of you guys and thought you would be a tough challenge because they can't stop our running game. They have good athletes, but they don't have the horses up front that can slow down a tough running game like this. So yeah, we won 32-6. What do you remember about the Newman game to start district play? 32-6.
I remember there was a little bit of nerves in the atmosphere that week. Sanger was really preparing us for a battle. He did a good job of it. He made us every week. Don't look down on people. Is just play the game you know how to play. I remember we were on the bus ride. It was a kind of a quieter bus ride on the way there. I remember sitting in the back of the bus with all the guys. Just talking a little bit, not too much. We were super excited to play the game. We knew it was going to be muddy. I remember it was a super muddy game on the sidelines and on the field. I always hated a muddy game, but it was a lot of fun. I remember we were in the locker room a little bit and we were all just chatting. It was one of those quieter games. It wasn't too hyped up in the locker room like other games that are to come. And I remember just talking to some of the guys, Alex Marks, we were like, this is going to be a tough game, just play our game. They gave us a good battle in the first half, but they couldn't push the second half.
Yeah, well, that's West Hancock football. It's like you're just constantly pounding and pounding and pounding, and eventually those guys are like, "I'm done. Like I'm out of here." Talk a little bit about Coach Sanger. You said he was getting you kind of prepared for battle. Is he X's and O's versus motivation? How does that kind of go with Coach Sanger? I never obviously played for him. I played for his dad, but does he make great adjustments midweek, mid-game? Just is he one of those guys you'll run through the wall for, or a combination of both of those things?
Well, Mondays are always our easy practice, our lighter practices. So talks us through what's going to go on, their formation, what's going on through the game. He's going to prepare us for the week. He was telling us that week, I remember we're on the sled and he's telling us, it's going to be a tough battle. We got to battle it out because the beginning of the season, these guys are supposed to be the district champions. And I remember thinking people were like, yeah, West Hancock's not going to be up there this year. I remember he's telling us not to doubt ourselves because, we had a lot of talent this year. So I remember he's just telling us day by day, every day, the same thing, be ready for a battle. Don't look these guys down. Don't, whatever this, and this. So we were looking at their lineup and they seemed like a solid team. We felt that we had to go out there and give it our all, just time and time again, play after play, from whistle to whistle.
Yep, I'd say that's what you did. You guys had 310 rushing yards, up from 270 something against Garner. Matthew Francis again, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was that workhorse offensively, but Kane Zuehl had a touchdown in the game, kind of his first real time and opportunity to be on offense as a running back his senior year. We know he's one of the best open field tacklers in school history and just a physical kid who just does his job. But what did he mean to the team offensively in 2021 for you guys to be one of those extra options at running back?
He came in very clutch a lot of the time, when times weren't going right on one side and with Matthew, give it to Kane and he's gonna work magic. He's always been a quick kid. He's always been able to take hits. I remember freshman year, Caleb Eccles would always go for Kane Zuehl. Kane Zuehl was on scout team, and I think that really toughened him up for, he's going to be ready for varsity. And sophomore year he was starter on varsity, and yeah, I mean he's a great athlete, good speed, good strength, very strong in the mind. I don't think I've ever seen him lose a mental battle. So he's awesome to watch run the ball.
Yep. I've enjoyed him the last 3 years. As a sophomore in 2019, I was like, man, this kid's going to be good. He is already good. But then watching him at the wrestling duels that you talked about earlier, he had to pin that kid from Emmitsburg in the last match to go to state. And I'm like, man, that is the hardest thing to do, is to pin a kid when the kid on the other side knows the only thing he has to do is avoid getting pinned. And he almost got him within the first like 10 seconds. And then he had a couple good, I'm like, man, that kid, he's just a tough, hard-nosed kid. And we're going to miss him wrestling and football. But
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to point out that he came in and filled 2 years before that, we had Joe Smith and Cole Kelly and Tate Hagan. And I mean, have Matthew jump in, and then the next year, and then it was like, who's going to jump in at running back? And I thought Kane, and then obviously Braden did a fantastic job jumping in there at those spots, and kind of kept on going. So didn't lose much there. Let's go to game 3, Lake Mills, 54-0 win at home. First home game against Lake Mills. It was a blowout, up 47-0 at halftime. We averaged 9.8 yards per carry, had 7 rushing touchdowns, which makes the record book for on the list for most rushing touchdowns in a game. On defense, we only gave up 81 yards of total offense. And a lot of those 81 yards were towards the end, of course, when you're emptying out off the sideline, getting the JV guys some playing time. Not that stats are important, obviously. How important are games like this for the future of West Hancock football, where everybody gets in the game, everyone gets to experience a varsity game? I'm sure you were kind of like that a couple years prior in that championship season, where you're on the scout team and then team's up big and you get a shine in the second half a little bit.
Well, I think it's a very important thing, because there's not a lot of teams that can get their younger guys in during the game because of close games, or they're getting blown out or something. But I think it's a very important thing to be able to get those guys in later in the game, because then they get a feel of what it's like to be out on the varsity field, get that, get those emotions out, so they know, okay, not to be under pressure. And I remember sophomore year when I got in on varsity, I was like, okay, just stay cool. You're on varsity, just don't panic. Just do your thing, go out there. It's another game, another play-by-play. Just, it's an awesome experience for them younger guys. I know that feeling, getting in during a varsity game. It's a lot of fun when you're a lot younger. So,
I'd say that's what has made our program so good over the years, is that guys not only get to play JV, they get to play a lot of varsity. My senior year, our JV played more than the varsity did, because we were playing some poor opponents. In championship type seasons, you're up 40, 50 points at halftime. Those guys get to play in those type of spotlights. Did you notice how much faster the game was, though, as a sophomore getting in on varsity right away?
Yeah.
Compared to JV, you're like, oh boy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You think you're going to make a tackle, and then they just run right by you. That was my sophomore experience. It was like, man, that was not what I expected. So
yeah,
no, definitely.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I definitely remember during this game, they were one of the most hyped up teams all season long. But I think we knew we were going to beat them. We knew, it wasn't like Garner and Newman where we were like, okay, this team's going to be bad. We really took Lake Mills a little softer, and we did what we had to do. We went in there and we fought hard, because I remember they had this Obley kid that they were talking up about, that it was a good receiver. And I remember Sanger telling us on that Thursday on our one of our easier practices, going through plays, he goes, don't take this kid softly, hit him in the mouth, just, teach him what it's like to play a physical sport, because, he's supposed to be a really good receiver, but here we are. We really shut out their best kid, and they really couldn't do anything else about it. Take out their best player, and they don't got anything else. Unlike if you take out one of our players, we got a whole lot more coming by.
Yeah. And Lake Mills passed the eye test. I mean, I was watching the game on the live stream, like, man, they're pretty big. Like, just like a lot of the teams we played, I'm like, they look bigger than we are, physically imposing, but they, didn't have a lot of physicality to them. What does Coach Sanger and the staff tell you guys in a game like this, where the score is getting out of control? You want to stay focused, you want to stay sharp and not take any steps backwards. What's kind of the mindset in the locker room at a halftime of a game like this?
Same thing he told us before the game. Every game, just don't even take them lightly, because anything's possible. You've seen comebacks in college football, high school football, professional. where anything can happen. You could be up 32-0 and you could all of a sudden just lose the game.
Yep. Yep. Well, I always think back to my junior year against Lake Mills on the road. They were 0-5. We were 5-0. We were down 19-7 to them going into the end of the third quarter, and we came back and won by 1 in overtime. We went 9-0. They went 0-9, but it was one of those games that that's why you play the game. You don't just, decide on paper who wins. So, yeah. So you guys were 3-0 at this point, 2-0 in the district. We're going to get to a game that I thought would be a closer game against West Fork, but let me get to a couple more sponsors here real quick. My first sponsor is Levi Dawn and Levi Dawn Trucking. Levi is a 2008 West Hancock graduate, and he was a standout football player, and 3 of his teams ended up making it to the Unidome. So I want to thank Levi for sponsoring the podcast, and check out Levi on Facebook if you have any trucking questions for him. And then also the Brit Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise. I want to thank them. They're sponsoring over 30 episodes of the podcast here in 2022. Jared Wingert, also the owner of Mojo. His company run these great events. They'll take place on July 20th, August 17th, and September 21st. They're all on Wednesday nights. The 5th annual event has free kids activities. Trophies are presented for all categories, and a $1,000 award is given out at each show. You can't beat free admission with great food and drink from Brit vendors only. Check out the video on BritCarCruise.com to learn more about the Brit Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruises. All right, game 4 was a 55-6 win over West Fork. Leading up to this game, like I said a minute ago, they talked about West Fork. It was probably going to be one of their best teams that they had at West Fork in some time, but we had another blowout type situation. We were up 36-0 at halftime, 49-0 at the end of the third. If I recall correctly, Coach Sanger kept the starters in quite a bit in the third quarter just to get some more reps, because I'm guessing the problem you run into is if the starters aren't playing a full game or close to a full game, that's really hard to replicate in practice, or it's hard to get those game reps. So he kept them in, and you just kind of hope and pray no one gets injured at that point. What do you remember about the West Fork game to get you guys to 4-0?
That game was we were all really hyped up to play. I don't remember too much, but we were all really hyped up. I remember that day. I always have this pregame ritual where I go and get my pregame snacks, FCA before the game. I remember we're all just really hyped up in the locker room, just talking, and I remember we were just really, really jumpy that game. We were really excited to go out there and just, play another game. It was a lot of fun. Always did our prayer before the game, and we did everything that we did over and over. Just go out there and do what we did the last few games. Just go out there and play as hard as we can for 4 quarters, whistle to whistle.
Talk about pregame a little bit. So when I was in school, the wrestling room was kind of our football room, and we had those bars hung up where you had your pads all hung up. Do you guys still have those things where your pads are all kind of lined up, and then you guys are all laying? We always would just sit across the wall with they weren't AirPods like you guys have anymore. They were Walkmans or CD players that skipped all the time, but guys would just be pacing back and forth. Guys would just be sitting there staring at the wall. Is that pretty similar to what you guys still do nowadays?
Yeah, pretty much, except we have where we get taped up, where the hangers are at, we put our pads, and then we go to the back locker rooms, which isn't the athletic locker room anymore. We go back there, and right before we go out to do our prayer, we play a song called Dreams and Nightmares. And we've done that since freshman year. I remember we played that same song before we go out and play. We play it. As soon as the song goes out, we shout, we get hyped. We go out there, we do our prayer out by the baseball field.
Yep. Get
down on one knee, do our prayer. We go out, make sure everybody's done praying, and then we go out by the playground over by the football field. Wait for Sanger to tell us to go warm up. We go warm up an hour before, then warm up, go through our process of getting ready for the game.
Yep.
Play by play, and just yeah.
Yep, that's one thing I missed. I think more than playing the games themselves was the pregame stuff, like
Oh
just
yeah.
that atmosphere. And Chuck Buseman, who's one of the podcasts I mentioned earlier, he coached with Coach Sanger for like 10 years back in my day. He talked about how that was almost he liked that more than he liked uh, the game itself. Was just that intensity beforehand was just hard to match. So, yep. And so in this game here, I felt like a couple of the sophomores started to show up at this point of the season. I'm talking about the Smith boys, Mitchell
Yeah.
and David Smith, Kellen mixed in a little bit. And then you had a couple juniors and like Brighton Coogee and Rylan Barnes. Talk about some of those younger guys that stepped up for you guys this season.
Kellen Smith, David Smith, and Mitchell Smith.
Mitchell.
Yeah, they're great guys, super talented athletes, I say. Some of the best athletes I've seen, probably some of the best that are going to walk through West Hancock. And it really took a lot for them to step up and want to play the game, just be ready to go out there. And because they've all had varsity experience in some way, whether it be in basketball, wrestling, or football. I think the way that they stepped up and took it another step further was fun to watch, because I didn't get the experience they did, to really go out there in the beginning of a game and play varsity. They really went out there and did some of the dirty work that we have to do, during varsity. So it was a lot of fun to watch and play. It's good that they're getting in during the beginning of a game, really stepping up, because it's really going to show what our program is going to do within the next few years.
Yeah, and I think people are pretty darn excited about the next couple of years with that group coming up. There's some talent that people I don't think really have seen too much that's going to be coming up as well. What about Barnes and Coogee and some of those juniors that are going to be seniors this coming fall? How'd they contribute to the team?
It really felt like they were seniors too, because they had a lot of leadership. They're really good role models to a lot of the underclassmen. Coogee especially, he's a big religious guy. I love his motivation to go out there and play the game. Rylan, just an outstanding athlete, I say. It's really fun to be a part of the team with them. We wouldn't be where we are without those guys either. We need everybody that's been involved. It was a lot of fun to be with them, play alongside of them. It was they're very valuable. They put in their work every single day, go in there and practice hard, play hard from whistle to whistle. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yep. And how did you guys get along? I mean, you had sophomores playing, juniors playing, seniors playing, and then you had the coaching staff kind of getting you ready. Everyone got along pretty well. Everyone was on the same page. Were you guys at 4-0? Was a state championship on your mind, or was it one game at a time type of thing?
We were really taking it one game at a time. Sanger was just always telling us, don't think too much already. Just play it game by game. Play by play, minute by minute. Just enjoy the moment, because win, lose, or draw, this is all we get.
Yep. And one thing as fans, and I talked to like Jay Hiscox and Kevin Wilson a lot, I kind of like to bug them and help them with the live stream and stuff. But at about this point in the season, we were like, man, this team, I think they're going to exceed our expectations. When you guys made it to the quarterfinals the year before, me personally and a couple other people were like, yeah, they're a quarterfinal, semifinal type team. Your team, I was thinking, probably quarterfinal, semifinal type of team. But by weeks 4 and 5, we were starting to think like, with this defense, you guys are going to be a tough out, regardless of who you play, whether that's Grundy Center again or HMS coming up or whoever came your way. And talk about real quick before I get to another sponsor, your role on defense. What was kind of your role on the team at this point in the season?
My role was third and long, second and long, pass rush type of guy. Sanger knew I had a lot of speed, so he used that to the best of our advantage as a team. He put me out there on third and long situations to really try to get some pressure on the quarterback.
Yep.
But it always seemed that the quarterback knew I was coming, so he'd always run the opposite direction. So, it was going there on fourth and and long as well. Just try to stop a punt or something, make sure, nothing gets away from us.
Yep. I thought that was one of Coach's best bits of coaching that season, was mixing in you and Marks together. Because Mark's a big dude. He's going to eat up space. He's going to ground and pound on people on the line. And then by the time they're exhausted, put little, you're a little small, faster guy compared to Alex, and you're going to be able to get right past those guys. And like you said, the quarterback was always running the other way. That's exactly what you want. You want him out of the pocket. You want him scrambling. You want him wondering who's coming from behind. So I really enjoyed the Marks Gomez combination. You guys were fun to watch. I'd try to focus in on you guys a little bit watching the game and doing some stats and stuff. So, yeah. All right, we're halfway through the regular season. What were you thinking going into, you had North Union coming up, but then also you had HMS and North Butler, who were pretty highly touted going into the season. What was your mindset with half the season to go?
I was really thinking, we have a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. But if you want to be a state championship team, you got to keep working hard. Just keep doing what we're doing, I got a little superstitious at this part of the season, I remember. So I'd always try to wear, what did I wear last week? Okay, I got to wear this again this week. I was starting to get a little superstition, even though I probably wasn't supposed to. But I just keep doing what we were doing, working hard, which is what really mattered the most. Just stick together, If we lose, we lose, get back to the drawing board, just start over again. Keep working hard, work our way up,
Yep. Nothing wrong with being superstitious. That was me. I wore the same shirt under my jersey, 7th through 12th grade, every single game. It was the 1996 state championship t-shirt, and I wore it every game. I even wore it in college when I was student coaching at Central. I'd wear it under my polo. I'm the same way. So, all right, let's get to another sponsor here. That's Michael and Brianne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, with locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion, Belmont, and Dows. Mike is a 1998 graduate of West Hancock, and his family's been privileged to care for the communities of Britt and Kanawha since 1977. You can find them online at ewingfh.com or on Facebook, or give them a call at 843-3839 or 762-3211. That's Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. This great funeral home is sponsoring pretty much all of my podcasts. So thanks to the Ewings for being so faithful to the podcast and the Sanger Legacy Fund. All right, game 5. I have to admit, this was one game I didn't get to watch live. My birthday was the next day, and my wife decided for my 35th, we need to have a little get together with some friends. So I kept checking my phone for updates, but I had to wait till about 10 o'clock at night to actually watch the game on KOW.com. But North Union was having a good season. They almost beat St. Ansgar, who at the time we thought St. Ansgar was pretty good. I mean, they were a decent team, but they weren't the St. Ansgar of old. They're typically a state title contender. They had to come from behind on the road to beat North Union. So I was a little nervous for this one. I thought you guys were going to get challenged pretty good and be a real indicator of how good we were. We were up 35-0 at halftime and 42-0 after the third. I'd say the highlight was Braden's 86-yard run for a score. And then Logan also threw a touchdown pass to Ryland in that game. Kane Zuehl had 2 interceptions. Talking now, we know that this defense is going to go down as one of the best defenses in school history. But the kicking game was actually starting to come around, is one thing I wanted to highlight here. Casey Lamrue averaged 51 yards per kick in this game, and he climbed up the record book for kicking yards in a whole bunch of categories in the stat book. But Ryland did a good job punting on the few times you guys actually had to punt the ball. Talk about the kicking game here as we're talking through the North Union there. I mean, it wasn't just you had a good defense. It wasn't just we had a good offense, ground and pound, and we could throw it a little bit, but special teams were huge as well. Talk about the special teams a little bit.
One thing I want to get out there is I feel like some of the time when Casey looks like he's kicking it really bad, those were times Sanger was telling him, all right, I want you to kick it like this so we can get it there. And I feel like some of the people would think like, okay, Casey's not a good kicker at times. So, but it was really Sanger just telling him, Casey, kick it here. And Casey did a good job of getting it where we needed it to go so we could, do what we had to do. Ryland was a really good punter. I remember his freshman year, my sophomore year, he was up there with I don't remember who our punter was. I think it was Joe, my sophomore year, his senior
That
year.
sounds right. Yep.
Yeah, he was our punter, and I think Ryland might have been the better punter than Joe. I think it was, but Ryland was a really good punter his freshman year. Our special teams has always been one of our one of our specialties, I should say.
Yeah.
Throughout West Hancock history, I think, because we've always had a lot of success. We didn't have a lot of returns this year. I don't know if we did or not. I don't
You didn't have
remember.
any. Yeah, not a single one got returned for a touchdown, which was shocking. But
Yeah,
always, to me, it's not did they return a kick or a punt for a touchdown. It's more did they flip the field and win the field position battle? Because when you have you guys go out there on defense and they're starting at the 10-yard line compared to 30 or 40, that's huge. And then they punt it back to you. We field it at the 50 and we're already halfway to the end zone. To me, that's huge. And like you said with Casey, kicking it away from certain people it's a huge strategy in football, making sure that, if you kick it to the 5-yard line, but their back guy returns it to the 40, that's not good field position. But if he squibs it, kind of like Coach Sanger said, over to the 20 and they have to fall on it at the 20 or 25, that's 15 yards that they're going to have to earn on that defense that gave up 60 some points the whole season. So that to me is huge, but I still can't believe between Braden, what he did in 2020, returning all those kicks and punts and interceptions for touchdowns. That didn't happen in a state championship season, but didn't really need too much either. So yeah, kind of ironic. But talk about Braden a little bit here while we have a minute. We're already talking about him. What kind of a teammate was he? Talk about his athleticism and what he brought to the team.
Braden's always had a little bit of an attitude. I hate to say it, but he's always had a little bit of an attitude to him. But he's had a good leadership role on the team ever since he was younger. He's a great athlete. I think what he's done over the years, I've seen him improve. Just week by week, I've seen him get better and better and better. He's one of the guys that I say came in freshman year and just improved a lot up to his senior year. I think he was one of our better athletes this year and throughout the last few years. I think he really was a huge part. I think he's one of my favorite guys on the team. I love being around him. He's a really good guy to be around. If you really get to know him, he's an absolutely amazing guy.
Yep. And I'm glad he got to finish out his basketball career after that broken hand in the state championship game. But you need guys with that attitude on a team. You can't have a team full of attitude, but you can't have a team full of the exact opposite where no one has any type of attitude or cockiness or a little bit of mean streak in them. You have to have a good balance there. And so that's good. Yep. And he was just fun to watch, especially that junior year. Every time the ball got kicked his way, you knew something good could happen. So
yeah, he's always been a shifty guy. I've loved watching him run the ball and especially on defense, I loved watching him hit people.
Yep. And he doesn't look super quick, something like Joseph Smith. You'd watch Joseph Smith get the ball and it was like, holy cow, he's gone. Braden never had that type of speed per se, but he could get to where he needed to go. And it was always fun to watch him dodge people and elude people. So,
all right.
Absolutely. Game 6 is coming up. I'm going to get to a new sponsor here quick, but we talked about being a little nervous for a game, but this was the game that I think people had circled on their calendars from the season before. But my next sponsor is the World with Nate podcast. Nate Allison is the brother of a friend of ours here in Indianola. He has his own podcast called The World with Nate. He hits on many great topics, and his goal is just to help and inspire people. Nate's an Iowan who loves helping people reach their dreams. Check out his podcast, The World with Nate. It's on Apple and Spotify or anywhere else that you find your podcasts. You can follow him on social media. And then I also want to thank Nick Schmidt for sponsoring tonight's episode. Nick is a 2000 West Hancock grad, and he wants to give back to the Sanger Legacy Fund. So thanks again to Nick Schmidt for sponsoring the podcast. All right, HMS. We're about halfway through the season here. Like I've said, this is going to be a long podcast. This was huge. It was non-district in the middle of the season. In the 2020 first round of the playoffs, we beat them 56-18, but they returned almost everybody from that team, and they had a new coach. So that always kind of throws a possible wild card in there. This was going to be the measuring stick for sure, unlike North Union. The game didn't start out very well, as we all know. We turned it over on in the first quarter, gave them a very short field, and then they scored their only points of the game on that trick play. I want to feel, was it some kind of a reverse pass? I can't remember, something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so they led 6-0, but then they got nothing after that. I don't think they gained 50 yards the rest of the game. We scored 14 points in the second quarter, put up one more in the third to finish off the game. To me, this was West Hancock football. We ran the ball 66 times for 354 yards, 5.4 average. Nothing fancy, nothing spectacular, but it was just 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards. It was just the 3 yards and a cloud of dust mentality that Coach Sanger built this program on for 5 decades. Francis had 43 carries. He had to have been kind of tired after that night. 239 yards. To me, this would be the perfect time. Talk about your offensive line, Irvin. List them out for us so everyone can hear their names, because us poor linemen don't get a lot of recognition in football games or in the newspaper. Talk about the players and what they brought to the team on the O-line.
Our center, Parker Means. Our 2 guards, Jake Wood and Eric Martinez. Our tackles, Brighton Coogee and John Martinez. They were a huge part of this win, I say. They really showed up. They did their jobs. I think the way they played throughout the game was awesome. I think this was a huge turning point for people to look at our offensive line, because we see guys like John Martinez, who was only 180 some pounds, Eric Martinez 180 some pounds, Coogee about the same weight, Jake Wood being only like 160 pounds. You know, you see these guys, and then you see guys on the Hartley team being 200 some pounds, you know,
Yep.
Almost 300 pounds. I think it was awesome to watch them face up against these bigger guys, because it really shows that size doesn't mean anything
Yep.
in sports. So it was really just, you know, you have guys like Eric Martinez, who is an aggressive guy. I've loved watching him throughout the years, because he's always been an aggressive player. Same with John Martinez. They don't, you know, I think our offensive line had a lot of speed. You know, they could really move off the ball, which was a lot of fun to watch throughout the season.
Yep. And like so, we got to give those O linemen some credit, because they're the ones who do all the dirty work for running backs to get their names in the paper. I like you just said about how much bigger some other opponents were. We never passed the eye test. I didn't feel like. I felt like we look over on the other side of the field, and those guys are huge, especially those Northwest Iowa teams like HMS and Alta Aurelia and South O'Brien. They were huge, but then our guys were just beating the tar out of them, just play after play after play. So I always like zoning in on the offensive line play. And then Ryan Johnson, Coach Johnson, does he mostly work with the O-line in practice? Is that kind of his specialty, I would assume?
Yep. O-line and D-line was his specialty. He loved working with me. I don't know why. I was one of his favorites this year, I think.
Yeah. Would he get in there and get physical with you guys a little bit?
Yeah, we did some pretty fun drills this year that kind of challenged us to really focus on working against bigger guys, because especially a guy like me coming in at 170 pounds, facing off against guys that are 200 or almost 300 pounds, it was always it was always challenging for some of us, but we did our best and we worked as hard as we could.
Yeah. Are you aware of how good Coach Johnson was as a player back in the day? Did you ever hear any stories about him?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about him, especially after the season is when I really found out more about him as an athlete in high school, and I see why we have a lot of success these last few years.
Yeah. Well, he graduated college in 2005. Well, that was his last football season. He was first team All-American in college as an offensive lineman. 8 years later, in 2013, I'm helping coach the Central College alumni football team against the actual Central College team, like where Tate Hagen plays now. Ryan Johnson shows up to play offensive line. And after the game, Coach McMartin, the head coach for Central, said, Ryan, you got to tone it down on some of these guys. You were beating them up, some of the college players, 8 years after he had been done playing college football. And Coach McMartin said the two best players on the field that day were Ryan Johnson and Mark Sanger. That counted the actual team plus the alumni. Between those two teams, they were the best two players on the field almost a decade after they'd been done playing. So they were studs. Like, you don't even know how good they were. It's crazy. So do you think HMS wanted a rematch with us? Would you have been excited to see them in the playoffs? It's always tough to beat a team twice.
In my mind, I was like, I don't want to see this team again. I really don't. They were probably one of the best teams we played.
Yep.
They were definitely, yeah. It was definitely they definitely got in my head a little bit. It was not that they said anything to me on the field. It was just the way that they played. They were a very challenging team. I really thought that, if we play them in the playoffs, it's going to be hard to beat them again, because it wasn't a blowout. It was a really close game, I say.
Yep.
And it was one of our closest games all season. So it was definitely not in my agenda to want to play them again.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a team twice in a football season. In basketball, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So definitely. All right, speaking of Braden Walk, I'm going to get to my next sponsor, his mom, Katie. Katie's Salon and Tanning is owned by Katie Walk, mother of Braden. They're located on Main Street in Titonka. She has been there for the past 16 years. Services offered are men's, women's, and children's haircuts, colors, perms, waxing, styles, and tanning, plus many brands of retail are available. Find Katie's Salon and Tanning on Facebook or Instagram, or call them at 515-928-2303 for appointments. Go Eagles. Game 7. I was pumped for this one. We had never beaten St. Ansgar before. I think we were 0-6 against them. And as much as I respect Coach Clevenger over there at St. Ansgar, I was like, we have to beat them finally. And you guys did in convincing fashion, 35-0. But it was 0-0. It was tied after one quarter. We busted it open with 22 points in the second quarter and then 13 in the third. The running clock kind of ended the game quick in the fourth. We only had 32 offensive plays, 28 rushes, and 4 passes, but we opened up kind of a new offense that game with the Wildcat. Was that something you guys had worked on all season, or was that something you kind of put in last minute that week to have Mitchell Smith be a little more involved in the offense? Talk about the Wildcat.
That was something we put in at the beginning of the season. Not with Mitchell in the beginning. It was originally with Rylan Barnes. Yep. At quarterback. And then, we thought Mitchell has got a good arm. We need Rylan out to, catch the ball for us. So why not put Mitchell up, give him a chance? So we always ran it during practice, and we didn't want to use it in a game yet, but we really thought, okay, this is going to be the game where we need that. We need Mitchell to do his thing. And he did absolutely amazing. I think he took up a good role in that offense that we had, because we don't ever really switch up our offense, and we've always stuck to that wing tee. It's time to change it up a little bit, run something new, and it worked. It helped us all season long, and some teams couldn't even stop it. So, especially St. Ansgar, they couldn't figure out how to stop it, and that's what helped us beat them.
Yep, that was fun to watch. I was like, as much as I love the wing tee and I'm a traditionalist, it was just like, whoa, what's going on here? There's something different going on. Even when we split out a receiver, I'm like, wow, we're expanding, we're changing. But like Coach Mark Sanger always says, you ride the horse you came in on. You don't change your identity just because, you got to a certain round of the playoffs. You keep going with what you know how to do best. But this little wrinkle I thought was huge, because it's one more thing for another team to scout, one more thing for their scout team to practice against. And that just eats up some of their practice time, having to focus on this new, different thing. So, yeah. Yep. One regular season game left to play. You guys are 7-0. I can't remember rankings wise. You're probably in the top 5 at this point in the season. What were you thinking going into the North Butler game?
I was, at this point, I'm like, okay, we have a shot at the state title. Because I remember we were within the top three, I think is what I remember. I don't remember too well. And I was thinking, okay, we have a shot to win the state title this year. I was like, I'm just still gonna take it week by week, but it'd be exciting if we can make it into the dome. And I remember just talking to some of the guys on the team, and we gotta keep our heads low still. We can't, get super cocky. We gotta, stay with our emotions, and just keep it, game by game.
Yep. Injury wise, you guys were pretty healthy at this point too. I don't think you had any injury bugs hitting yet, did you?
No, not yet. This part of the season, we got to keep everybody as healthy as we can. So, I remember we were at this point in the season, we're like, okay, we're not going to go out a lot these next few weeks because we want to stay as healthy as we can. We don't want to get hurt or get in trouble with anything. So that was the plan.
Yep. I forget about it now, thankfully, but like COVID wise, was there any talk of like, don't go out much, don't do this because if someone gets it and spreads it, or was there anything like that like there was in 2020, or was that pretty much a thing of the past by this season?
For some of us, we tried to stay, we went out and did a lot of fun stuff, but it was kind of like, we didn't say much about don't go out. It was just, I think, just we're going to stay out this weekend, we're not going to do anything, just stay home. It was just kind of, it just kind of came to us, just we're not going out, just stay at home.
Yeah. And it's easier for a old 35-year-old like me to say, but like I'd give anything to go back and play high school football, and I'd do anything to not ruin that chance. But as a 17, 18-year-old kid, you're just wanting to go have fun. But that's what impressed me about you guys. It seemed like you had a mission, and you were on just wanting to achieve your goals, because you look at you're done playing football now. Your football career is over. You won't get that chance again. So why ruin it doing something stupid, we always thought you guys were a very mature team, just watching you on Friday nights and then talking to people. So yeah, let's get one more sponsor through here, and then we'll get to the North Butler game and Mr. Chet Buss, who some of you guys are probably still a little sore from having to go against him. Miller and Son Golf Cars is family owned and operated with over 50 years of business experience. Skip and Jim Miller worked together with their dad Monty until his passing in 1996. Associated with Easy Go, Miller and Sons now calls on over 1,000 golf cars in 3 states. Companies and courses are always extremely happy with their products, their service, and their honesty. This has resulted in double-digit growth each passing year. Based in Brit, just outside of town, Miller and Sons employs 18 full-time employees and 3 part-timers. The next generation is being trained as we speak to ensure long-term stability. For more information, contact them at 843-4132. Email them at customerservice@millergolfcars.com or visit them at millergolfcars.com. All right, North Butler, like I said, Mr. Chet Buss, who's going to be going for his 4th state title next year, I believe, in wrestling. This is a big one. They were 7-0. We were 7-0, both ranked in the top 5. The only difference I thought was we had played in big games before, and they really hadn't been in this type of a situation before. By this time of the season, their season was over. They might have been trying to sneak into the playoffs, but probably not. Again, they had Chet Buss. Did you clash with Buss at all during the game? Did you get a hit or be hit by him?
I try to avoid him as much as I can, but there was just one play I remember, but he didn't get me too well. I was a lot faster. I know I am. I could definitely tell that, but I remember I always just tried to do my job. I didn't line up on his side, which was I was relieved about during the game. Mm-hmm. But I was definitely just trying to do my job on 3rd and long, 2nd and long, just get after the quarterback. And I know that he was ready for me. I know their offensive line was at this point, a lot of teams in the season were okay. They got this guy coming in on these 3rd and long, 2nd and long, 4th and punt, situation. So we gotta cue on this guy. Whenever he's coming in, is try to stop him. And I don't think they did as well of a job this game with that, which I was really happy with. I gotta say, Chet Buss was definitely one of those athletes on the field that we tried to stop him as much as we could, and I think our offensive line and our defensive line did a good job of slowing him down during the game, which was a lot of work to do, I say.
Yeah, and it just shows that one player doesn't make a team. I mean, he's a Division I athlete in two sports, but his team still got beat 36-0 by a group of teammates. Not saying that
Yep.
North Butler was a bunch of individuals by any stretch, but one superstar athlete doesn't make a team. You guys were a complete team. But last thing on Bus, in the semifinals at state wrestling this year, he wrestled a kid from Interstate 35. That's where I teach. That kid's little brother is in my fourth grade class. And when that kid came back the next week from state wrestling, I said, "What'd your brother think of state Chet Bus?" And my fourth grade boy goes, "He's a monster." That's all he could say about him. I'm like, "Yep, he's a dude. He's a man." But yeah, in this North Butler game, you guys were up 6-0 at the end of the first, 12-0 at halftime, 24-0 at the end of the third, 36-0 to end the game. 287 yards rushing, but the part I really thought was impressive was the passing game. And granted, we passed it 8 times. People are going to be like, "That's not a passing game." But for West Hancock football, when you can throw it successfully 8 times, that just keeps the defense honest. They can't just key in, get 10 guys in the box. You got Barnes, you got Walk, you have Zuehl. You have all sorts of weapons that you can throw little passes to, long bombs. Mitchell Smith had a good arm. Logan was fairly accurate. How'd that make you guys feel going into the playoffs, knowing that you weren't just this one-dimensional rushing team? You could, teams would have to prepare for the passing game, the running game. They'd have to prepare for the Wildcat. What did you guys feel like going into the playoffs here?
I think we were all just, we knew that we had we could be successful in a lot of areas. So we were always just trying to keep teams as honest as we could, which was the plan all season long. Especially guys like Chet Bus, he's a big guy, big dude. He's not just strong, but he's pretty fast. So we did our best to use as much of our accessories, as you would like to call it, as we could. Which would be our passing game, which is what I considered as an accessory for us.
Yeah.
Which was honestly one of the best strategies we've had, and it was awesome to just see how we could change up our offense a little bit and see it work. Yeah. And we had a lot of success with that, which was a lot of fun to watch and do.
Yep, and Logan and Mitchell could both throw the ball, so it didn't matter who was in at quarterback. Teams didn't know, "Oh, it's automatically going to be a Wildcat run." He could throw it. He has an arm. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the class the next couple of years, especially with the Grundy Center kid graduating. But yeah, you didn't know what to expect. And typically when you're playing West Hancock, you know what to expect. Whether you can stop it or not, you still know what's coming. That's what was also fun about this team. Talk about the community at school going into the playoffs. What's it feel like being a part of a team that's going to go on a deep playoff run?
I just remember going to class, especially in Garner. This is the time where Garner had more respect for us. They were actually cheering us on. It didn't seem like we were rivals anymore. I felt like we were just one big family at this point, no matter where we were from. Mm-hmm. It was, going to class and having students just wishing us luck week by week, and especially some of the Garner teachers and staff. They were wishing us luck on our games, week by week, and coming to Brit and having the teachers say the same thing. Good luck, guys. Just trying to keep us honest, trying to keep us as humble as we could, which was a lot of which is hard to do when you're undefeated and you're going into the playoffs having high hopes for a lot, but just trying to stay honest, trying to stay humble, and just keep on doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I just remember growing up when playoffs hit. It was a little different when I was growing up. You'd have your last game on Friday, and then your first playoff game was on Wednesday. If you won, the next game was on Monday, and then your next game was on Friday. So you played 3 games in like 10 days. You guys got to do the week by week thing for the most part, except in the Dome. I think you played on Thursdays, but still you had about a 6-day schedule. So you didn't have to switch up your schedule too much. You didn't have to switch up your routine. And I think the big part is you guys had such an experienced coaching staff as well that they'd won a state title. They'd been in another championship game. They'd been to the Dome, been to the playoffs. So they felt what it was like to win it all. They felt what it was like to not win it all, and then to just keep you guys grounded and prepared one game at a time, because the first round you played Alta Aurelia, and it wasn't a close game. We all know that. Alta Aurelia knew it wasn't going to be a close game. It's hard. I think it's harder for the team that's better to not have a letdown in that type of a situation. And even if you have a letdown, you still win by a couple touchdowns. It's hard to keep your momentum going. So I think that's always kind of a tough thing. But before we get to Alta Aurelia, I'm going to real quick get to a new sponsor that sponsored before, and they're back. And that's Jim Deemer and the Brit Vet Clinic. The Brit Vet Clinic is also long-term sponsoring the podcast once again. They're located in downtown Brit. They're there for all of your small animal vet needs and swine vet services. Call them at 843-3416 or email the Brit Vet Clinic at britvetclinic@gmail.com. And I don't know if you know the guy who owns that vet clinic, but he was the quarterback on the first state championship team back in 1973, Jim Deemer. Good dude and helped start the tradition. All right, let's get to Alta Aurelia. They had to come to town for a first round matchup that, like I said, everybody knew what the outcome of the game was going to be. When I was talking to Jay and Kevin, it was like, just one, do we stay injury free? And two, we got to keep the momentum going from that North Butler game and not have a letdown in that week. I'm assuming that was your mindset going into the playoffs, was we have to be our best, not just play down to our opponent, right?
Yep.
Definitely. So yeah, it wasn't close. 24-0 at the end of the first quarter, 37-0 at halftime. They scored right at the end. We averaged 10.2 yards per carry. Francis led the team with only 11 carries. So that tells you it's not a close game when your fullback only has to carry it 10, 11 times. Didn't have to overdo it, which was nice. Everyone stayed healthy. Talk about the locker room. Talk about guys getting along, pushing each other at this point. Coach Sanger said it was so easy to coach you guys because you kind of coached yourself to a degree. Talk about winning that first round game, moving on to the second round.
I say this team is when I realized, and I think I talked to Brighton Coogee about it when I was like, this is not just practice every day. This is a team chemistry, a brotherhood. This is where I'm like, this is amazing. This is fun. The locker room was just it felt like the locker room every week improved. We all just got more excited and more excited every week as the week went on. It was because I could really see the atmosphere was changing a lot more. We were all more cheerful. We were all a lot more excited to go out there and play. I remember during this game, there was this one specific play, and I remember it was when they put in their backup quarterback, and we were chasing him all around the field, and it was that was probably the longest play I've ever played in all my years of football. The quarterback just couldn't stop moving. He ran from one side of the field to the other. But it was. I remember talking to Brighton Coogee about it. This is what I love. I love. I don't think a lot of teams have this team chemistry. That we've built up, not just from this season, but from previous years. This is amazing. This is awesome.
Yeah. And I wasn't at this game. I wasn't able to get up there, but looked like a decent sized crowd there. Even Alta Aurelia brought some decent sized fans. To me, though, I don't know if you guys even know this, but you have so many people that watch these games on the live stream. So you don't get as many people in the stadium as we used to because, COVID kind of changed that game a little bit. But then people know instead of driving an hour and a half to get there, I can watch the live stream, but I'm still supporting the team. What do you guys think about that? Did you feel like you had a lot of support in the stadium in the game, but did you also in the back of your mind know that literally thousands of people are watching this game every week, these games?
For me, I never really thought about it at all, really. Not until we got into the dome.
Yeah.
But seeing, I remember looking at the crowd, and I was like, it looks a little bigger than usual.
Yeah.
But just knowing that you have a crowd that's watching you, knowing that you have people supporting you, I think makes a huge difference in a team. Because I remember we played West Fork for homecoming a few years ago, and I remember it was 55 or something like that at the half. And I remember coming back after halftime, and there was maybe 10 people in their stands. And I think that just shows how much your community really supports you and cares about your team and what you're doing, because it motivates us guys to push ourselves more, because it's not just 11 guys on the field, it's our entire community that we have. And it's awesome to see how many people are supporting us, not just there, but through a screen. Just seeing people wanting to watch us play is awesome.
Yeah, and people like me and several other alumni, we talk about the game all week long. I send your coaches and some of my buddies like Jay and Kevin, I send them updated stat reports and scouting reports and historical data every Sunday. And we talk about the game leading up to the week. Literally 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 people watch the games on the live stream, plus whoever's in the stadium. So it's one of those things, man. Yeah, you're not just playing for your team, you're playing for everyone who's ever played at Brit and West Hancock.
Yep.
That's something I never took lightly, and I still am glad that I can say I'm a part of the program. So, and speaking of Jay Hiscox, the Jay Hiscox State Farm team in Brit is a proud supporter of the West Hancock schools and the Sanger Legacy Fund. They can help you with all your insurance needs, including auto, home, life, farm, business, and renter's insurance. For a free quote or review, give Jay or Lindsay a call at 843-3563. Go Eagles, and thanks to Jay and his team for sponsoring about 25 of my episodes. All right, we have 4 games to go here. We're going to plow through these next couple to get to the Dome. Second round of the playoffs. If people don't remember, in starting this year, you have to win 5 playoff games. They shrunk the regular season down to 8 games instead of 9, added a round of playoffs. This year, they matched up the first round with everybody, and then they waited to see who won the games in the first round. And then they potted them up into groups of 4, and we got put in with South O'Brien. I was a little anxious that they'd put us with Grundy Center before the Dome. I thought us and Grundy were the best 2 teams. I'm like, if we're going to play each other, it better be in the championship. If they have us play in the quarterfinals again, that would be kind of a shame. But they sent us kind of out west. So geographically, they kind of went by, they tried to split up the top 4 teams and then move teams certain directions to keep the best 4 at the Dome. The first quarter against South O'Brien, though, was scoreless. Neither team scored. These guys were big again. They passed the eye test over us. But in the second quarter, that seems to be our quarter, broke it open with 22 points. Not a slow start, but you're just kind of figuring out this team and see if there's any chinks in their armor, and eventually we found a few. One score in the third was when Casey Lamoureux made only the second ever field goal in West Hancock playoff history. Actually, that was in the fourth quarter, but out of like 80 some playoff games in school history, we've only had 2 made field goals. One of them won the 96 state championship, Ben Bergman, and this one by Casey was in the second round of the playoffs. Pretty cool company to be in for Casey. And then I was a little mad at you guys. You gave up a touchdown with 30 seconds to go. I wanted that shutout on the back of the t-shirts, another playoff shutout, but what do you do? Still won the game handily. Between this game behind you with North Butler and HMS playing on the other side of the bracket, you already kind of mentioned this, but who did you want to play, North Butler or HMS in the quarterfinals?
North Butler. That was what I was looking for. But when we found out we were playing Hartley, it was just put on another game face. It's take it another game, another play-by-play. Just obviously we knew we had to change things up, and when you play 2 teams with like South O'Brien and Hartley, who have big guys on their team, which is something that we were all used to all season long. Mm-hmm. We knew we didn't have to change much up. Just keep playing, just keep grinding out play by play, just keep pounding on the teams. We knew teams are going to break at some point, so we kept doing what we had to do to win.
Yep. Talk about HMS, and they kind of raised a stink. They thought they were going to get a home game over us. I don't know if you even know much about this, but they forgot to add in the fact that head-to-head mattered in the regular season. They thought they were going to get the home game by the alphabet system or whatever, but found out that if you played each other in the regular season, whoever won that game got the home game. They were ticked. Do you remember hearing much about that?
I did. I remember, especially on social media, that we were cheating. I remember hearing from other teams and other schools that we were cheating teams out because we get the home game, even though technically we're not, on like I know about the alphabetical thing, and I remember people were just telling me on social media, this you guys aren't right or whatever. But we didn't let that stop us. We didn't let that bother us. So we did our thing.
Yeah, it was the state association that decided how it went in the playoffs. It wasn't like we called over there and said, "Hey, we're going to host." Okay, it was kind of ridiculous of them to be upset about it. What about before the game? Someone was saying they like refused to take the field for a while, or they did their warm ups over by the playground area. What were they doing there?
I remember coming out of the locker room to do our prayer. And I remember them watching them warm up. And as we were praying, their coach got louder. Yeah. So while we were praying and we saw the entire team lined up around the baseball field, their coach started getting louder and louder and making their guys get louder and louder. I remember during the game, this was probably one of the nicest teams I know, because I remember them telling us, ignore our coach. It felt like they weren't even playing for them anymore. It was just playing to, they didn't want to be with that coach anymore. I remember them telling us that, don't listen to our coach. Just, let's just play this game. Let's have fun. Win, lose, or draw. I've had fun. Lining up against one of their guards. I remember he was telling me just keep playing the game. Ignore our coach. We don't like him. And I've never heard that ever said from another team or another athlete, which is surprising to hear, but it was something I remember just, because we love our coaches. We love everybody on our team, no matter what happens. So it was different because, one, they didn't want to warm up on the field because of their coach. And I think a big factor that came into that game was their coach. Their coach was in their heads in the wrong way, which is, I don't think something that's right.
Yeah, I never heard that side of it. It was more of a one person deal than anything else.
Yep.
It's crazy. Yeah. Before we get to that game, the details of it, I'm going to get to the next sponsor of 18 of them. Like I said, First State Bank takes pride in their community-based values and wants to be your bank. They take pride in serving the Eagle Nation communities. They can personalize your banking products to meet the needs of your busy life with free internet banking and their mobile banking app with mobile deposit. Try their bill pay services. First State Bank backs our Eagles 24/7, just like their service to you. First State Bank, whether it's personal, business, real estate, or ag loans, they have the products to serve you best. That's First State Bank in Brit. So yeah, I'm intrigued to hear even more about this because that's surprising. Sometimes, the whole team takes on the character of the head coach, but apparently that wasn't the case. And again, we got the home game due to the head tiebreaker. They were ticked, raised a stink about it. And then after one quarter of play, I was a little nervous because it was scoreless. And I felt like they had they seemed prepared to take away some of our strengths in the game. They figured us out a little bit. And It's always hard to beat a team twice in a season. But our defense was too good. And eventually our offense was just going to bust a couple. We got one in the second quarter to go up 6-0 at halftime, but that's only a 6-point lead. That's not a thing to feel real comfortable about going into the second half. We scored 2 more in the third and then 1 in the fourth to make it 27-0. Matthew had 3 touchdowns. All of them were 40+ yards. So he wasn't just the 5 yards and cloud of dust. He was busting some big plays. Yep. Braden had one of the crazier runs you'll ever see in a game. I'm pretty sure he covered 312 yards to gain, I don't know how long that play was, but 50, 60 yards. But that play probably took 20 seconds of game time. We had 363 yards rushing, so they didn't really figure us out, except maybe the first quarter. They just slowed us down a little bit. Seemed like they were stopping the run just once we got past that first line, but no one was there once we got past that front line of theirs. Were they kind of loading the box on us more than anything?
I think so. They tried to definitely stop Matthew a lot more is what they tried to do. But when the result, like you said, he got away for a lot longer of yards that game. Yeah. So it was, like I said, they're guys. I think they kind of knew they were going to lose. They didn't want to play. I think it was kind of the deal at that point.
Yeah. Talk about Matthew a little bit. We haven't, I mean, obviously he's kind of the all-state or stud fullback on the team, but talk about him behind the scenes. What was he like as a leader and as a teammate?
He's always been a really quiet guy. He's not a guy for words. Um, he's always been a good leader though. His work ethic is outstanding. And I don't think I've ever in my life, I don't think I'll ever see anybody work as hard as he does on and off the field. Super smart guy, super kind guy. He's got a contagious attitude, and it's someone you really want to be around because he's a great guy. Just his leadership role, keeping everybody in line, keeping everybody honest, is fun to watch because he doesn't have to say much in order for you to listen to him. He's just one of those guys that, okay, he's telling me to do this, I'm going to do it right. It's always one of those guys that you want to keep happy. He's kind of like a coach figure if you think about it, because he's been on varsity all 4 years. He's gotten playing time during his freshman year. I remember when we played Hudson in the Dome, he was playing during that game.
Yep. And
it was just, he's always been a fun guy to see. And I just see him, play. He's improved a lot since freshman year. And I think anybody can see that because he's been a role all throughout our 4 years of high school. So he's been fun to be around, and I'm definitely gonna miss him a lot.
Yeah. And I do the record keeping for the program. I think he's the all-time leading tackler in school history, but he's actually second on paper. Nick Horseman, who lives here in Indianola, and I'm friends with him, he's first all-time, but Nick will dispute that a little bit. He said in a lot of games, they couldn't really tell who got the tackle. As it was the stat girls who were my friends said, I just gave you the tackle on that one. So he's like, I bet you 30 or 40 of my tackles in my career weren't actually my tackles. If you take those away, Matthew would have been the all-time leading tackler because, like you said, he had 4 years. He pretty much was a 4-year starter, at least 3 years, and then mixed in a lot as a freshman. So he had one of the best careers defensively in school history. Talk about his dad real quick, Coach Francis. He was a coach when I was in school. What does Coach Francis bring to the table?
He writes down our plays. He keeps track of what we did during the game, so coaches look at it and see, writes down how many yards we had or whatever. Same thing, kind of like the stats girls do. He just play-by-play guy. He's a fun guy to be around. He's definitely a jokester. He's definitely a lot different from his son. Matthew's a more serious guy. Francis is more of a fun guy. He likes to. Not that Matthew isn't any fun, but he's definitely two different people.
Yep. Did you take shop classes with him in high school?
Yep. I'm taking building trades with him right now. So
nice. Tomorrow at school, ask him if he remembers what he had me do in shop class to earn my A. I can't build or fix anything to save my life. Like changing a light bulb is a tough task for me. And Coach Francis realized that pretty quick. And so for me to get an A in his class, I was in charge of cleanup. I would pretty much lead everybody through how to clean up the shop and then make sure everything got clean. And then he would give me my A. He wouldn't hardly let me touch a tool because things would break. If I had a hammer or a saw in my hand, he was like, nope, we're not going to waste all this money on you destroying everything because I'm terrible. So ask him about that at school tomorrow if he remembers what he would have me do in shop class. Yeah. Back to football anyway. This was your third time going to the Dome in your 4 years. You had 2018, 2019, 2021. What I liked was when you guys beat HMS, you watched them get their quarterfinalist trophy. They said, good luck in the Dome or whatever. You guys gave a little holler and then you just ran off the field. It was just like, yep, we knew what we had to do. We have more business to take care of. It was just, let's act like we've been there before, which you had. And that was just typical West Hancock style. No one ever got too cocky or arrogant about anything. How was practice leading up to the semifinal game with East Buchanan? Were you guys doing anything different at that point to get ready for the Dome, or was it just business as usual? We just are playing indoors next week.
Business as usual. We didn't change a single thing at all.
Yeah.
Our atmosphere in the locker room did get a lot better. We were definitely a lot more excited. Obviously, because we're playing in the dome. We just, other than practice, we kind of practice inside a little bit just to get used to being indoors a little bit, practice in the gym, still full pads and everything, not a lot of contact. We just, we just continued to do what we've done all season long. Everything we did game one up to the semifinals was, not much change. We just continued to practice the way we've been practicing.
Yep. You guys kept lifting and running every, a couple mornings a week, never changed the routine.
Yep. Woke up. I always had to wake up at like 4 or 5. It was getting colder, so I had to start my truck earlier because we had to go run, and then we'd lift, and then we'd do our walkthrough Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
So real quick, talk about the Gopals, your strength coaches. They kept you guys healthy, got you guys stronger throughout your career. Talk about Stacy and Seth.
Good people. Definitely tough people that are in our weight room. I'm glad we have them because they push a lot of our guys to do the best that they can. And they don't worry as much about us getting as much weight as we can. They worry about perfecting our form for certain lifts, which is very important. And it really have helped us. And we've seen improvements from freshman year up to senior year to see how much we've progressed in strength and speed. They've been a huge part in us getting to be better athletes. So I think they played a huge role in us getting better as athletes.
What percentage of the team do you think lifted consistently? I mean, was it almost everybody? Was it half? How would that kind of look lifting wise?
I say I wouldn't say a high number. I mean, I guess anywhere from 60 to 75% of the team. Not a number I'd want for a team. I definitely want it higher for us. I expect it to be higher. But when we go in there, we mean business. We're in there to do what we're supposed to do to get better. And that's the plan. That was the plan all season long.
Yep. And hopefully these younger guys are in the weight room as we speak, or tomorrow morning getting ready for 2022.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Next sponsor, Daniels Auto Collision in Charles City. Owner Jason Daniels is a 1990 West Hancock grad. Whether you need a minor fix-up or complete collision repair, Daniels Auto Collision is North Iowa's premier auto body shop and will have your vehicle back on the road looking better than new. With over 30 years experience and all major insurances accepted, why take your chances with anyone other than Daniels Auto Collision? Call them at 641-220-3805. Email them at danielsautocollision@gmail.com or check them out at danielsautocollision.com. All right, semifinals, 2 wins away from the championship. You guys face East Buchanan in the Dome. It was the first time we'd ever played East Buchanan. 37-0 win to make it to our 8th state championship game in school history. This game was a little closer at halftime than I would have liked. I was hoping for a blowout early on, and just so we knew that we were going to the title game. We're up 8-0 at the end of the first, and that was the halftime score. But to me, it felt like we controlled the game. Like they hadn't threatened a whole lot to score. Our defense was playing tough. We were moving the ball. We just weren't scoring. They had that big Iowa recruit up front. Did he give you guys fits, or did you not notice him too much out there? I don't remember.
Not really. I feel like there were guys on other teams that gave us more of a fit than this guy. I think East Buchanan really got in their own head. I don't think they'd ever been to the Dome, or I don't know if they have.
It'd been like 35 years or something like that.
Yeah. So it was definitely, we knew what the atmosphere was like, and I don't think they knew it. We were definitely prepared to play another game. In their books, I think it was like playing a championship game,
Happy
a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a lot different for them compared to us. I don't think they were really ready to face us, I should say. I know I shouldn't be saying it like that, I guess, but it was, I don't think they were really ready to one, play us, 2, play in the Dome. And, I think it was just, they didn't prepare as much and they weren't ready for that kind of a game and that kind of a battle.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. So in the second half is where we kind of turned it on. We scored 16 points in the third, and they're a running team. I put in my notes, they weren't really built to come back from behind. So they were struggling. They kind of got out of their offensive rhythm. Then we added 13 in the fourth. We held on to the shutout. I think it was Logan that chased that guy down at like the 3-yard line. I can't.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Logan. I was so happy because I love shutouts. I just, the stat guy. I like to see that 0. I was like, thank you, Logan, for getting us that shutout. And the one that really made me laugh was when Barnes had that pick 6 from 43 yards out. That easily should have been pass interference, but it obviously did not change the outcome of the game. It was just like insult to injury for East Buchanan. Like, really, give us something, You guys give him a hard time for that, or did you not even think about it after the game?
No, we didn't even think about it one bit.
Yeah. In the crowd, we're just like, oh man, that stinks. Like, they're already down 30-0 or whatever, and then you have that happen to that team. You felt kind of bad for them, but to me, my biggest memory besides the win was I rode with Rick Sanger to the game. I told you guys this story in the other podcast, and I was just gonna like take a nap in his car while he was in there. You guys were doing like team pictures or whatever. And I'm like, I'll just hang out in the car. And he goes, just come in with us. No one will notice. No one will care. So I got to walk in with you guys. And I sat on one of the trainer tables where guys were getting their ankles taped. And I just got to kind of sit back and watch and observe pregame, something I haven't seen up close in 16, 17 years, whatever it's been since my senior year. And so I walked up to where you guys entered the dome itself, or the football field itself. And there's these 2 old guys sitting there. And I tried to walk by and they're like, where's your pass? And I'm like, they forgot my pass. Can I just go in? They didn't let me go in, but I gave it a shot. And then I stood there and talked to those guys for about a half hour and then went and found my spot in the stadium and watched the game. Talk about, speaking of the stadium and the crowd, you mentioned earlier about you really noticed at the dome, the community support. What was that like looking back at our crowd? And it was packed.
Oh yeah. The Sea of Red is what we call it.
Yep.
I remember being in the tunnel and coming out and just looking at the crowd, and I got goosebumps everywhere. I remember just looking. I kind of got in my own head a little bit. I was like, "Holy crap! This is not real."
Yeah.
And I remember just praying to God before the game. Just God, keep me honest. Just let me come out here and do what I've done all season long. Let me show my improvements. I remember just constantly in prayer. I remember every game I've done that. I just constantly in prayer, just talking to God, keep me honest, keep me doing, let me do my job, keep me safe, keep me healthy, keep our team healthy, just always just looking at the Sea of Red and just, it's like, wow, thank you, God, for this. This is amazing. It's one of the best feelings to have. One of the best things to just look at is just look at your entire community behind you, supporting you, having your back.
Yep. And alumni and former teachers. There was a guy sitting across from me that hadn't taught in Brit for 30 years, and he was living, I think, over in Cedar Rapids. He came to the game. People like me had to use personal or vacation days to come to the game. I mean, people care, and people are willing to travel, especially when it's indoors and nice weather. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I kept looking around going, there are tons of people here and people I haven't seen since the last football game in the dome. But people come back from Des Moines and other states, you name it. It's pretty fun. So, all right, Grundy Center. They won their game against Woodbury Central. I was kind of thinking Woodbury might upset Grundy in the semis because they had such a pass-happy offense, just quick striking. We played them obviously in the 2019 championship and beat them by 4. They beat us the year before in 2020, or the year after 2019, before this year, in the quarterfinals in Brit by 6. So this was the rubber match, 3rd straight season playing Grundy, 2nd time in the championship. We all know they badly wanted to win this game. Like, they wanted to get one championship out of their 3-year run with that Kanawha kid. But we obviously wanted to win it just as bad. But we had one in our back pocket already. Talk about nerves, excitement. Was there any trash talking? Was there any social media stuff going on the week leading up to the game? Go ahead.
Social media wise, not really, not at all.
Yeah.
But one thing was, Sanger just said it again. It's another game. Play it like another game. We all tried to do as much as we could to stay humble as we could.
Yeah.
It was it's definitely a lot harder, especially when you're playing in the most important game of the season, the one that you've been working for all season long. This is where
Yep.
this is where you show everything that you worked for all season.
Yep.
I was definitely. I think we were all super nervous. We all know we were super nervous. I remember being in the locker room and just we're all. It was probably one of the more quieter times in the locker room I've seen all season long. We're all just really dialing in, really focused. But we were all super excited. I remember just the bus right there. I remember playing a video game on the way there, trying to stay calm.
Yep. Just keep the nerves down.
Yep. It was we're all, remember, we get on the bus, hey, let's play this game together. We get on the game, on the way there, we're talking, having, normal locker room talk on the bus, and we get to the locker room, getting ready, getting our ankles taped. I remember locker room was a lot quieter. I remember we all had our headphones in, just listening to our music, put our pregame song on, go out there, we prayed, we warmed up, and during the game, it was a lot different. This team was really like to open their mouth. I remember they really didn't want us to win, and they wanted it really bad. And I remember just going in. This is probably one of the games I got the most playing time. I remember just coming on and off the field, and their guys were not just there to play the game. They were there to really try to hurt us, and it was a really physical game, but I enjoyed it. I don't care what anybody says. There was not those 2 seconds on the clock. It was not meant to be for them.
Yep. Nothing they can do about that. Yeah. And I just remember I got to the dome early. We're up early to go to school every day, and my wife took the kids to school where we teach. And I was like, I don't like to just sit around. So I'm like, I'm just going to go. I drove through Grundy Center. So the defensive coordinator for Grundy, his father-in-law and mother-in-law are from Brit, and their son Doug was my college roommate. So there's some Grundy West Hancock connections there anyway. And I went and stopped at Bob's office in Grundy Center, and we talked about the game, and we were both just like, I just hope nothing weird, crazy happens, nothing controversial, which we were wrong there. But then I got to the dome during the 8-man game, and when you guys showed up, Coach Sanger came up the stands to go talk to somebody or something. I said, hey, Mark, got his attention, and he was just calm and cool and collected as ever. Dan, good to see you. How's the wife? How are the kids? Just a little small chat, chit chat and stuff. And I was like, man, he doesn't seem nervous at all. He just seems focused but not overdoing it by any means. So when I talked to him there for 30 seconds, I was like, man, I think we're going to have a good day today. Just based on his demeanor. So, yeah, we're going to get to the Grundy game here in a second. I have one more sponsor to get to, and then we're going to talk championship, and we'll wrap it up. Kelly Real Estate has been in business for 62 years, starting with Paul Kelly. Paul handed the business off to Steve and Deanna in 2017. Steve and Deanna have been involved with the business for over 20 years themselves and really enjoy realty. It's a great way to get to know people and get involved with the community. Kelly Real Estate this last year added Rachel Swanson to their team, and also their office manager, Nora Clark. So if you're looking for just the right starter home, the perfect forever home, or a unique fixer-upper, or even transition into your retirement home, call Kelly Real Estate at 843-4102. All right, I'm going to break this game down a little bit for us, and then you fill in the gaps for us, okay, Irvin?
You got it.
Championship game against Grundy Center in the Dome. We won 19-14. Both teams scored in the first quarter to make it 7-7. We knew we were in a battle, especially with their quarterback. He was going to keep them in the game no matter what. We scored 6 in the second, 6 more in the third, so we were up 19-6 and going into the fourth. We didn't score anymore, obviously. Coughed the ball up once. They got their touchdown to put them within 5. We had to punt with about 3 minutes or so. They had, those 3 minutes to score and win the game, being down 5. Did any doubts creep into your mind at that point when we were up 5 with about 3 to go?
Nope, not a single doubt came into my head. I knew if we just played tough like we did all season, we were going to win the game. There was no doubts. We just had to do what we've done all season. I remember just doing my prayers throughout the entire game, just keep us honest. Just let us do our best.
Yeah, and you had to know they weren't just going to go 3 and out on that drive. You knew they were gonna. I mean, they were just athletic enough. They were gonna get some first downs and keep the drive going.
Yep.
And you already talked about those last 2 seconds and the controversy. There was also, I think, once or twice leading up to that where they should have run the clock and the refs didn't run the clock.
Yep.
That it should have never even come down to those last 2 seconds anyway. Did you ever hear the story about the referees and the Brit connection there?
I've never heard it. No.
So the crew that was supposed to do the Class A game, one of the referees was from Brit, Ben Bergman. He was the guy who kicked the state championship winning field goal in 1996. When the state found out that we were going to play in the championship game, they flip-flopped the 8-man referee crew with the Class A referee crew. So the crew that we had for the championship game was actually supposed to do the 8-man game, but they had Ben Bergman's group do the 8-man game instead. So there was no controversy or favoritism towards West Hancock. And I'm guessing those refs at the end were kind of like, oh, I wish we would have just stuck with our original assignment, but it made sense, obviously, to not have Bergman be reffing a game that West Hancock was in. But yeah, the game ended with a little quote controversy, but at the end of the day, there really shouldn't have even been that much time left on the clock anyway. The refs hold up the ball, say the game's over, talk about the emotions and talk about the celebration there at the end.
Everybody threw their helmets on the ground.
Yeah.
I remember going to Dave Smith. I jumped on him and we both fell to the ground. But I got up for just a second and I looked at the Grundy Center team. It's sad. It was I know I probably shouldn't be saying this. I know Sanger's probably gonna give me crap about it or not. I remember I felt bad for them for just a second. I looked at them and I think that was a really humbling part of me because I looked at them and I felt sorry for them for just a second. But overall, I was super excited, super happy, all jumping in the air. Probably the best feeling I've ever felt. Just jumping around my team, just hooting and hollering. Just super excited, super happy that we have the opportunity to be out here and do what we do best. Come out here and because nobody knew you were going to be a state championship team. Everybody, like you said, everybody thought good quarter finalist team, semifinalist team. I definitely thought the same thing. It was definitely been a goal since we were younger, down in Pee Wee days, back in 5th and 6th grade. Just play football as long as we can for, and just looking at my teammates, celebrating with my teammates just made it a whole lot better. Just, these are guys I grew up with since I was super young, and even though we haven't gotten along all the time, we all just had fun doing what we love to do as a team, as a family, and not just with the team, but the entire community looking at the Red Sea and just, seeing our community supporting us, cheering for us. I bet there was people in the crowd with tears in their eyes, just looking at the looking at us celebrate, because it's definitely the best feeling ever. And especially for Coach Sanger, being able to win a game, taking on after his dad, which has got to be a lot of pressure for him, which I'm super proud of Coach Sanger for that. I'm super happy that he's able to coach for us, and for me to be able to be coached by him is a huge honor for me. I loved being under Coach Sanger and being around my team. It's always going to be one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, and you talk about, it's confusing because when I hear Coach Sanger, I think Bob Sanger. When you think Coach Sanger, you lean more towards Mark because that's who you played for more. But I saw Mrs. Sanger after the game, Linda, Coach Bob's wife, and she's been struggling the last couple of years with everything going on, and she was thrilled. She was smiling. She was talking. She said, "I said, what do you think, Mrs. Sanger?" And she goes, "Those boys are going to remember this for the rest of their lives." And she was just smiling. And that to me made my day more than you guys winning a state championship. The fact that she had a great day because of you guys. And she was one of my all-time favorite teachers. so involved with everything. And I talked to Coach Perkins. He was beaming again too, and he was all excited. And just again, it's more than just that one team. It's the coaches and the families and the alumni and the former players. It means a lot to a lot of people. So I was really thrilled when we wanted to do this podcast, to break down the season more in depth than we did earlier and talk about it, because this might have been my favorite team in West Hancock history. And I'm a high school football buff, so I really appreciated all you guys did for the community and for the school and for the program and for the Sangers, you name it. Last question. Besides winning games and winning 2 state championships, what are your favorite memories playing for West Hancock? You can't include the game we won or the championship we won. What's going to stand out to you 20 years from now?
I think just the relationship that I had with coaches and teammates and the community. That's definitely going to be the one thing I remember the most. Even when I'm old, I know I'm always going to remember this, but always having the support from my teammates, from my coaches, from the community, is always going to be the number one thing that sticks to me the most, because then you just see, how many people actually care about you and your companions. The amount of relationships I've developed through high school because of football and because of sports has been the one thing that's always going to be with me, because, I'm never going to get these moments back. I'm always going to want to relive it over and over again. And I definitely it's definitely the relationships I've built with everybody.
Good answer. That seems to always be the answer. And it's because it's true. It's not just like our pastor at church always says, Jesus is always the answer in church, but that's the fluffy, easy answer. And that's the easy answer here is the relationships, but it's because it's true. I mean, I still talk to some of my former teammates, and I still talk to the coaches and Jay and Kevin, and I can do podcasts like this with guys like you. It's relationships and giving back to that legacy that Coach Sanger started back in the 60s. So awesome. I always love to hear that. And then I'm excited for 2022. That's the thing with this program is you don't just dwell on, oh, they won this championship. That's great. And right now it's let's go win another one. I know Brighton Coogee right now, I follow him on Facebook, and he's working his tail off and been saying that he wants to be the first team to win 3 now. You guys are the first ever to win 2. Let's go win another one.
That's the plan. I really hope they can do it. It's definitely fun. I'm super excited to see what the program has to offer in the future, because we got a lot of talent coming back, and there's a lot of talent that we haven't seen yet that's going to come through West Hancock. And I'm really, really psyched to see that. Because when you're younger, you don't realize what could happen in the future. You just think about having fun with your friends, and just doing what you want to do. Just super excited to see our program continue to grow, get better, and just super excited to see what we got to offer, because I really hope that these guys that are coming up, they can do a lot better than we did.
And that's the goal. We don't ever want to be that group that's like, well, I hope no one ever tops our accomplishments, because then we'll be the best. It's like, no, we always want that next group to be even better. And that's the cool part about West Hancock football. And there was a lot of kids at the Dome, little elementary school kids wearing those red and white jerseys with their names on the back. They're waiting their turn, just like we waited our turn to be that next batch that hopefully makes it back to the Dome. So you bet. All right. Thanks again to my 18 sponsors: the Brit Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Jay Hiscox Estate Farm Insurance, First State Bank, Mojo Productions, Daniels Auto Collision, Katie Salon and Tanning, Deemer Realty, Nick Schmidt, Kelly Real Estate, Sidetrack Lanes, Wilson's Diner, Brit Food Center, Levi Don Trucking, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, Brit Vet Clinic, The World with Nate Podcast, and Doug and Kathy Zuehl of K3 Farms. Next up on the podcast, I have Bob Horner. Then I have John Weiland, Jeff Nielsen, Paul Hauge, and the 2011 and 2012 girls basketball teams that made it to state. And then I've booked out my entire 2022 lineup. One I'm really excited for, that's in December. I got 5 either current or former elementary teachers from Brit or West Hancock Elementary to come on and talk about elementary school. And my goal at this coming fall and winter is to get like 200 sponsors for that episode of former students to honor their former teachers. All right, Irvin, last words. Anything you want to say as we wrap this up? Any shout outs you need to throw out there? Go ahead.
Just want to give a shout out to everybody that supported us. It means a lot. It's been an honor to play football for West Hancock, to wrestle for West Hancock. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. Thank you all. I want to thank God for keeping me humble throughout this entire experience. I want to thank my parents for all the support that they've done. You for allowing me to be here talking about this. Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. I love talking about this. I'm never going to forget about it. And if I could talk about it every day, I don't think I'd ever get sick of it.
Yep.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody. It's been a run. It's been fun.
Show that ring one more time up close.
Here we go.
Two-time state football champ, Irvin Gomez. All right, go Eagles.
Go Eagles.